Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Herly Agustiana. In this video, I would like to share my analyzing short story. The title is A Dark Brown Dog by Stephen Corin. Before the analyzing, I would like to tell you the summary of this story. In A Dark Brown Dog summary, a street dog befriends a young boy. The boy likes the dog but often beats him home. The dog follows him home, cowering and begging pardon. This happened on the way home. When the child brings him home, there is further fighting. When the family returns home, they debate whether or not to keep the dog. Since everyone wants the dog to leave, the father lets it stay. The youngster must now protect the dog from the other family member who feel obligated to kick and beat it. Depending on his mood, the boy seeks out the dog for comfort or abuse. Despite this, the dog finds solace in the boy's stability, feeding, and love. Dad became drunk and rowdy one day. The boy noticed and dives for shelter, but the dog doesn't. The father kicks and abuses the dog with a coffee pot. To protect the dog, the child rushes forward. The father lifts the dog and throws it. The boy rushes to the dead dog and sits for hours. And the first analyzing is setting. First, some event happened in the street when the dog and the child met in the very first time. And the second, some event happened in a room or inside a house when the family mistreated the dog in the kitchen. Third, some event happened in pavement when the child in the first time saw the dog died. And the next analyzing is plot. The plot of this story is foreshadowing. The first plot is exposition. A child is standing on a street corner when a small dark brown dog with a short rope around its neck appears. He and the child look at each other, and the child calls out to him. The dog is excited to be petted. He becomes so enthusiastic that he almost knocks the child over. At this, the child hits him on the head. And the second is crisis. The dog is untethered and lies down at the child's feet. He rolls over onto his back and holds out his paws, praying to the child not to hurt him. The child is amused and gives him little taps, but the dog takes this as further admonishment and tries to convey his repentance. He is petitioning the child to love him. And next, rising action. The child, however, becomes bored and sets out for home. The dogs stand up and follow him. Periodically, on the way home, the child turns and hits the dog with a small stick, feeling that the dog has no value. The dog tries to apologize for this and begins to look very guilty in his pursuit, but he continues to follow. Occasionally, the dog trips on the rope around its neck. The next is climax. When the child family arrives home, there is a great argument. The dog is cornered, but the child champions the dog. And when the father of the family comes home from work, he decides out of some contrariness that the dog should stay. The child takes the dog off to a corner of the room. The dog and the child quickly becomes inseparable. The child protects the dog if the adults kick him. If things are thrown at the dog, the child interposes himself, and the dog becomes good at ducking people when they are trying to hit or kick him. And next is falling action. One day, however, the father of the family comes home exceptionally drunk. The child notices this as soon as he comes home with the dog. He dives under the table. But the dog misinterprets the movement, thinking the child is playing. The father, spotting the dog, hits him twice with a heavy coffee pot. The dog, giving up giving up hope of escape, rolls over onto his back and prays. The father decides it would be fun to throw the dog out of the window. So he picks him up and does so, to the enthusiasm of the neighbors. And the last is resolution. The dog crashes into a shed 5 stories below and rolls into an alleyway. The child begins to cry and crawls downstairs to find his friend. When his family finds him later, he is seated next to the body of the dog. And the characterization of this story are the dog, the child, the father, the family, and the neighbor. The dog, a kind dog because he always accepts and forgives the treatment of the children and the families. And the second is the child. He is a loving little boy even though he likes to beat dogs too, but he feels close to the dog. And next, father. A father who got drunk and killed the dog. Next, the family. They didn't like the dog so much that they always beat the dog. And the next is the neighbor. They just silently watched the death of the dog. There was nothing they could do about the situation except for the shock they had. Protagonist characters are the dog, the child, and the neighbor. The antagonist characters are the father and the family. And major characters are the dog and the child, and the others belong to minor character. And the point of view of this story is use a third person. The author tells a story using third person pronouns such as him, he, and they. And the last analyzing is theme. The theme of this story is that cruelty always results in bad consequences. The main idea of the story is friendship between human and dog and the faithfulness of a dog toward his master. So that is the analyzing of short story that I choose. So thank you everyone. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.